Last year in August, Ron asked me to speak at the McCall conference. And I asked him, I said, so do you want me to do something on technology? Because I don't know anything about technology, or at least nothing great. And he said, no, just there's going to be enough people talking about technology at McCall. Why don't you talk about what you do? So I sat down for a few months thinking up a talk about technology. Bet you didn't know that. And no matter what I came up with, it just kept going back to why I really do this, and I think why all of us really are doing what we do. And I think Ron sums it up best when people ask him, what does he do? He says he helps students achieve greatness. And I've been stealing that and using it all over the place. Sorry, don't give you credit very often. But so here's a spoken word poem that I did at McCall. It's a 5-minute talk, and every 15 seconds there'll be a new slide. And I don't get to control those slides, so. When I was in the 6th grade, Mrs. Bandy told me to talk about my family. The class had 2 weeks to create a family tree and find every picture of our moms and dads, uncle and aunties. The class's task was to tell a story. So I thought I probably had to bust out the glue stick, scissors, and poster board and prepare to spend every day bored. Because for me, excitement for crafts never took. Like that girl sitting next to me with the yellow pigtails who could make a mean scrapbook. So as usual in English class, I slipped into the state of mind of being a half-ass, assignment kind of kid, doing just enough to get by. But then Mrs. Bandy announced that our projects would not be on paper. We'd be spending every day of the next 2 weeks in the school's brand new lab full of compact computers. Well, I picked my head up off my desk and came out of my stupor because for the next 2 weeks, I was exposed to a small piece of heaven. And I experienced the groundbreaking, life-altering, paradigm-shifting world of PowerPoint 1997. Okay, so it wasn't that magical. But it was a lot of fun to discover different transitions fading from bright to black and having Enya playing as my family tree's soundtrack. But the real kicker came when we presented our slides. And after class, Mrs. Bandy pulled me aside and she whispered, Trevor, that was the best presentation I've ever seen. Well, looking back, I highly doubt that was true. Because every slide transitioned with a big star, and I might have gone a little crazy with the word art. But when I was 12 years old at the height of my parents' divorce, and my head did not yet fit my buck teeth, and the only escape from my pain was sleep, and every evil force of middle school was constantly bringing me to my knees, I believed every word Mrs. Bandy said to me. Well, the next assignment was back on paper, but something changed in the performance I gave her. Her words were stamped on the front of my brain, and it might sound insane, but D student Trevor started getting A's. Fast forward 16 years, and now I'm an English teacher. Whenever I do my poetry unit, I always ask my students to please raise their hand if they love writing poetry. Crickets. Okay, now raise your hand if you hate it. As if in competition, all the hands in the room stretched towards the ceiling. Thomas's hand was stretched the highest. A boy who wears the same t-shirt to school every single day, who carries bags under his eyes that are far too heavy for any 14-year-old to carry, and the last thing he wanted to do was write poetry. Well, the assignment was to create an analogy by describing something found in nature, but really writing about yourself. Thomas said, "This is stupid." And I said, Thomas, I want you to forget about rhyming and timing and all that other boring poetic crap and just write about your life. Well, Thomas chose a tree, and he told the story of a seed that was cracked and abused and used to life underground with no water or light, but someday hopes to sprout from that cold forest floor and finally feel the sun. And after some serious persuasion, I got Thomas to read it to me. And I felt this choke in my throat as salt stung my eyes, and I sensed this conviction that it's okay for him to see me cry. And after class, I pulled him aside, and I whispered, Thomas, that's one of the best poems I've ever read. You should see what I've witnessed from that boy ever since. Because you see, Thomas was a stream flowing neatly down the center of a dam, regulated between the walls of a concrete tunnel, relegated with all the other creeks that flow in a comatose straight line, slow and old, only to empty into a great gray sea of, you are not different from anybody else. Dilute this ocean, then die. But I think my words put a crack in that dam. Just a hairline, but enough to let a mist seep from the cement. And soon water started spitting from that crack, No, not spitting, gushing from that small split, as if God himself held the tip of his thumb on the spout of a garden hose. And it didn't take long for that concrete to crumble. That clear and predictable stream turned white as the water rolled and the sun pulled the darkness away from that valley. And it started to carve canyons and roar like thunder into new lands. And the safety of that stream is gone. And I don't know where it will flow now or what seas it will fill in the end. But I do know that that damn dam is no longer standing. Thomas used to be a stream, but there was a river behind that wall and a hairline crack. Now, Mrs. Bandy might see this video, this presentation I'm giving on YouTube someday and be like, I don't remember that PowerPoint presentation assignment. Or maybe Trevor Muir, I don't remember him. But that's okay, Mrs. Bandy, because I remember you. Thank you. So, I hope we can all be inspired just to know that that's a true story. I did not like English, I didn't like reading, I didn't like writing, and I really, really, really did not like school or my life. And a really kind lady who was also a teacher told me something really nice about something I did. And now I'm an English teacher. And I try to do the same thing with my students, and I hope we can all do that with the kids that we encounter wherever we're at. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.